In this video, I'm going to be talking about why project scope management can directly lead to project success. Now, there's a reason that PMBOK places such a massive emphasis on project scope management, and through research the PMI conducted, they found that projects that effectively manage project scope are 2.5 times more likely to succeed, and that in projects with schedule and cost delays, 52% of the reasons behind these delays were not effectively managing project scope. And that's why project scope management is one of the most critical skills you can master as a project manager. That's why I'm going to be giving you 7 reasons that project scope management is the key to project success. As a real life example of the critical importance of project scope management, we're going to look at a case study from the Denver International Airport baggage handling system upgrade. Now, this was a project to redo the baggage handling system and make it state of the art. We're going to look at how not managing project scope caused them a whole range of issues. The first reasons effective project scope management is critically important to project success is because it defines boundaries for the project. It draws a line in the sand of what should and should not be included in the project, which prevents one of the biggest issues on projects, which is scope creep. Scope creep is the addition of unnecessary and extra features that weren't budgeted for or allowed for in the schedule. And once we start adding these to the project, not controlling scope directly causes our schedule to get delayed and increased costs. Second reasons project scope management is important is because once we can define scope, we know exactly what we're going to be doing. It improves project planning. Obviously, it's way easier to plan for something that we know we're going to be doing. If we don't know the project scope, how can we possibly estimate costs, create a schedule, or prepare our quality management systems? We need to know the work we're going to be doing when we're preparing for and planning for the project. The third reason project scope management is so important is because it enhances communication with stakeholders through project delivery. What I mean by this is we have a clear definition of project scope. There's a scope statement, there's a work breakdown structure. It helps us explain and articulate the work we're going to be doing to impacted stakeholders, and there's a clear point of reference so everyone can understand exactly what we're going to be doing, which is going to enhance our communication with stakeholders. The next reason project scope management is so important is because it helps us to monitor and control the project during project execution. Because we've developed a project scope baseline and we've clearly defined project scope in the beginning of the project, when it comes to delivering the project, we've got this reference point we can refer back to. Then any changes that come up, we can clearly articulate, we can clearly see how the project scope has changed, and it helps us to then investigate the impacts of this change. The next reason is quality assurance. Project scope management helps with our ability to manage quality on the project. So quality is the process where we verify and validate that what we've delivered matches what we originally said we were going to do. So obviously, an incredibly important part of the quality management process is to actually understand what exactly we were planning to do to begin with. So the better we define scope, easier it's going to be to prove that we've fulfilled the project requirements with our quality management system. The next reason is risk management. So risk management is how we deal with the uncertainty that matters on the project. If we can clearly define project scope to begin with, we know exactly what's in the project and exactly what we're going to be doing. It's going to minimize the amount of uncertainty, which is going to help us to manage project risks. And it's also because we can define scope, we can see what possible risks can eventuate because we've got such a good grasp and understanding of what we're planning on doing. The final, and in my opinion, the most important, is project scope management directly relates the amount of value delivered by the project. So ultimately, a project is a temporary endeavor to achieve a certain objective. Now, the more we can understand through project scope management what the objective of the project we're trying to achieve, what our stakeholders want, and what actually generates value for them, the more value we can deliver. It's as simple as that. If we go through a proper process in the beginning of the project of collecting requirements, understanding our stakeholders' need, refining these, turning these into a project scope statement and a scope baseline, basically what we're doing is we're directly increasing the amount of value delivered by the project by understanding what people actually want out of the project. So that all happens through project scope management. So what did the Denver Airport baggage handling project do wrong? Well, they didn't go through this proper process at the beginning of the project to refine scope, collect requirements, and clearly define what they were planning on doing. What ended up happening is the airlines asked for all these additional features after the scope baseline had already been developed, after the budget had been set, and through the execution of the project, because they didn't have a proper scope baseline, they weren't able to implement proper change control processes, and the project suffered from shocking scope creep. All these additional features kept adding, all these additional features that weren't budgeted for or allowed for in the schedule. And what slowly happened is the cost just kept increasing, and the project eventually massively blew its budget. Ultimately, it went from an $193 million budget to becoming a $560 million project. It almost tripled its initial budget, and it went from what was meant to be a 2-year project to a 6-year project. So you can see at the start of your project, you don't clearly define what is and isn't included in the project, and then during project execution, validate and control the scope, then ultimately, you're going to end up doing a whole lot of work that you originally didn't budget for. And the way we avoid this happening is with project scope management.